A very warm welcome to Bawo, the podcast where we center the voices, the stories, and the struggles of Black women everywhere, especially women in diaspora. Today's episode dives into a quiet but rising tension in our community, the escalating stress levels among African women in diaspora. How are women balancing full-time work, family life, and deeply rooted cultural expectations, and at what cost? She must work like she doesn't have a family and care for her family like she doesn't work. And today's young men want a woman who has it all. Isn't it a tall order to be a woman today? Get yourself a cup of something stimulating, ladies and gentlemen, as we take a deep dig into this very sensitive yet deep topic. The silent strain, African women, work and weight of tradition. Can we truly have it all? My today's guest is a very special young woman sitting right here, beaming smile across the pond or the screen. She is one person I truly, deeply love and connect with on every level. She's a wife, a mother of two, maybe one on the way, I don't know, a doctorate, doctor of molecular engineering. I might not get that right precisely, but
Yes.
she is no other than the formidable, the super talented superwoman, Dr. Oluwafikayo Onobi. Welcome, Fikayo. Fike, as we call her in our family, you are most welcome to Bawo. And I'm so excited to have you here and to open up this scintillating chat for your generation on this platform. How are you doing or feeling today amidst all of your rushing around from work and so on to put your bum on a chair and hook up to this line? How are you feeling?
I am very well, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and good evening to you too. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here today to discuss this very exciting and interesting topic.
Thank you, thank you. You're most welcome. Now,
Thank you.
I know you, but can you tell the audience who you are? What you do daily, your accolades, please, everything. This is a raw conversation. Get it off your chest. Everything you want the audience to know about you. Go on, tell them.
Well, you already covered almost everything that in
Well,
the
let's
introduction.
uncover it and you cover it again.
Okay. Like you said, I am a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a colleague. I wear so many hats. I love God. First things first. I wouldn't be where I am today without God. And I have lived a life that has been blessed. I do not take it for granted. So that's who I am personally. On professional level, I am a biologist. I have my most recent degree is a PhD in chemical engineering, chemical and biological engineering. And at the moment, I work at the intersection between biotechnology, protein engineering, and AI. And that's what my day job is. At the moment, I work at an engineering consultancy where we deal with protein engineering and AI, the next generation of where protein engineering is heading to. So that's what I do in my day job. In my spare time, I probably don't do much because I'm tired from like
Because you're already
doing
doing too much. Too
exactly.
much.
That's the thing because it covers this topic as well. In a day, you have to like work as if you don't have you have to work as if you don't have a family, and then you treat the family as if you don't have a
You don't
job.
have a
So
job.
when I'm not at work, I'm probably just letting down and trying to get things sorted at home. So I'm not sure I have too many things I do outside of work for fun or like when I'm at home, apart from just relaxing when I can and just getting
If you
things
can.
done. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Wow. It is a tall order to be a woman in this day and age. And I applaud you because half of what you said, even though I'm educated to some extent, I do not grasp that protein engineering. I mean, I know food and nutrition. How do you engineer protein? So maybe I think you're going to sit again behind this screen and tell us about your job. Because I
Oh,
really do
okay.
love, yes, that could be another episode in itself because I really do love the fact that women are in science and technology and AI all wrapped all together. So that's really exciting. I need some education in that area.
Okay,
So
that's quite exciting, and I'll be happy to share at some other time.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And maybe you can encourage other young women to get into science, the STEMmy or STEM, as you call it today. So,
Yes.
yes, so you are a pioneer, I should think, in this particular area. And maybe we have a look and see what Guinness Book of Records says in your line of work as a
Yes.
black woman in diaspora in your age. So, in keeping with our topic today, first off, can you take us on your PhD journey? How did you get here where you are today? From your first degree to your master's to your PhD, and you are a badass boss in the morning, or in your case, in the lab. Phew. Wow. So, yeah, take us on that journey and just tell
Uh,
us.
okay. So like I mentioned, I'm a biologist. I think right from secondary school, one of the topics I never really struggled with in school was biology. It just always came to me naturally. I just sort of like enjoyed it and understood it. So after secondary school, obviously I applied for my first degree and I had my first degree in biochemistry. And as much as I'm in sciences and the STEM courses, I would say my strongest suit is still biology. I dabble in a bit of chemistry and maths and physics and the rest, but like my first love and my absolute favorite has always been biology. So it was only natural that I did something biology related. So
Follow your
after,
heart,
yeah.
where your strength is.
Exactly. So after my first degree, I got a scholarship and then came to the UK to study for a master's degree. So coming off the back of my first degree, biochemistry, I was sort of considering a couple of options whether to go into medicine because that was what most people did after biochemistry, get a degree in medicine and become a doctor, or basically work in other areas of the biology, like end up in the lab. And for my master's, I then ended up studying for a master's in industrial and commercial biotechnology. And from there, I just really fell in love with the industrial aspect of things, the way biology still influences our daily lives, day-to-day lives. It might not be obvious to you. And like you said, I would obviously like to explain the
Yeah,
protein engineering bit, but like in
yeah.
every aspect of life, every area of life, biology is important. And
Mm,
the way it just comes into play, especially in the industrial aspect, it's really fascinating. And I always enjoyed being in the lab as well. It was one of my
mm.
happy places. So it
I,
was
I
only
love that
natural.
you said that. That biology is industrial because I cannot blend the two together. So we're going to come back to that
Yeah, most
in a
people
bit.
think of biology and you think
Just
medicine and
human body and
everything.
that's
Yeah,
it.
human
Yes.
body, but biology is everywhere you look. So after my master's degree, I took a brief, not really brief stint. I worked in a couple of places, but which wasn't even biology related, but my heart was always in the lab and getting back into research, which was then what prompted me to actually apply for a PhD. So I came back to the UK to study for a PhD in chemical and biological engineering. My main research focus was into it wasn't even, I didn't start out with protein engineering. I started out with enzyme technology, trying to design an enzyme that would be useful, stable, because enzymes have a huge role in our daily lives as well. So that was where I started from. And eventually I ended up on a different side of my research in the sense that I focused on actually creating an organism that would be useful for biological processes. So that was what my major was for my research. And after that, I then proceeded into industry, which has always been my main goal and dream in the area of research, to actually end up in industry, perform research that would influence industry that could widely be pushed out to other uses in society.
So we should watch this space as far as industrial biology is concerned. I don't know what we're going to target here, but you definitely come back and educate us. And that's quite a lot, and I love your passion in that area. And when you look back at your journey, because you could write a whole book on your journey of PhD, you know, I know we haven't delved into it. Perhaps some of it will come out. What will you do differently as you're addressing other women, black women in diaspora at the moment or out of diaspora? What will you do differently as a growing woman or grown woman? You just clocked 40 as well, and huge congratulations. You don't look a day
Thank you.
old, VK.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. Huge congratulations on that milestone. And I remember some years ago, you baked for my 40th birthday some years back. And as I also launched an NGO that same day, you capture all of that essence of the day in the cake. And I remember you are incredibly talented young woman, an artist in that respect and a scientist, So what will you do differently? If you look at that chunk part of your life, your PhD journey as a woman.
I would not, I would answer, I think I would prefer to answer this question as a retrospective. What do I appreciate from what I have done so far? I think that's the
Perfect.
way I would rather
Yeah.
answer it.
I mean,
And
this is your interview, so
okay,
feel
yeah,
free to embrace it.
and I think I'm not sure what I would do differently, because everything I have done so far has led me to where I am. So, which is why I
Amen.
can't say specifically what I would have done differently.
So should I
Prob
rephrase that question?
no,
How will you advise? You get it? Okay.
yes,
So
yes.
throw it in.
Okay, so I think first things first, I would say seize every opportunity that comes your way. Seize
Seize every
every
opportunity.
opportunity. I would look at this from two different aspects. For instance, my first stint in diaspora in the UK, I was a scholarship student and I just didn't think I needed anything major. I was being paid a stipend, so I didn't work when all my classmates were like
Wait, that
looking
was
for.
easy.
Yeah, so like when all my classmates were like doing other jobs just to like
22
make.
hours, yes,
Yeah,
to pay school fees.
I didn't do that. So if there was one thing I could
Admirable.
have done better, then probably I would have had hands-on experience a bit. Even if it was just for a few hours, I might have done that then.
I see.
Because by the time I came back for my PhD, obviously I had grown up, I had matured, and I knew that was important to do. And it actually came back to help me. So by the time I came for my PhD, in spite of the fact that it was a very huge commitment. A PhD is like a full-time job,
It
an
is.
extra. And I was also single parenting at that point, but I was still
Single
working
parent.
I was also working two different jobs at
Jobs.
so it was like
Two
I was doing.
different jobs, single parents in the UK, and also PhD students. Wow, wow.
Yes.
The list is growing. Keep going.
Yes, so I believe what I have learned so far was those two jobs that I did while I was also studying for my PhD helped me a lot to identify where exactly I wanted to go into after my research. And it was also a good example, a good testament to the strength of my character and how much I could achieve under pressure and with very limited resources, in the sense that by the time I went into job interviews, I could demonstrate that with little time, with little time, I was
Much
still able to
support.
I just achieve my PhD and still work at the same time, earn a living, gain relevant skills. And so I could easily just point to examples of where I had demonstrated such
Strength.
strength of character and things like that. Yes.
And then on top of that, you are a mother and a remote wife.
Yes,
Across the pond in
and I was
wife.
also pregnant, so yes, I did a lot of
Okay.
things.
So one and one on the way. Okay, so that takes me to the story of one of my mentees while she was doing her PhD in this country. She had two babies, two pregnancies, two maternity leaves during the PhD. So the university had to pull her aside and give her a warning and said that was her last maternity on that PhD. So I have to say she's a very, very strong and determined woman. On top of all of that, she was also working, stacking shelves in Asda, and a lot of chaos was in her life, I have to admit, because I was closely involved in her life day to day. And needless to say that something had to give, in her case, unfortunately. Her marriage, her relationship broke down. But thank God that her sanity remained intact. I had to pull her aside myself as a daughter. She wasn't my daughter. I said to her, I said, do you want me to take you for contraceptives? And put a sock in, or just keep your legs together. Of course, we laughed about it, because the university already said that's your last maternity, or else you forfeit your PhD. I mean, what's the whole point of all of that? I think most people will spend 5 years average on a PhD. Most people, I think she was spending almost a decade, because you can imagine the time of pregnancy, working, and off sick, and maternity, and all of that put together. So, and that brings us back to the saying at the beginning: she must work like she doesn't have a family, and care for her family like she doesn't work. As a mom, I can just imagine your daily routine, the reality of your daily lives, or your daily life and the lives of everyone in your family. You probably wake up by 5 a.m., prepare food for your family, get the kids ready, rush to work, perform under pressure all day, and then you return to cook a traditional meal, to clean, to serve everyone, and still be emotionally available to your husband or your partner. How do you balance this role, your professionalism and domestication, you know, especially being a woman of today with so many hats that you wear and responsibility?
Thank you. So like you mentioned earlier, the case of your mentee, something has got to give. And it, if as a woman you do not realize what, how to prioritize what is important, then a lot of things will crash. If you're juggling 5 balls in the air, make sure you select and decide which of the balls you really cannot
Need to
afford to drop.
drop. Mm.
If you can identify those, your life will be a lot easier. I think in my case, two things have worked so far for me. The first thing is I am forever grateful for the community and support that I have, in the sense that while a lot of African marriages and traditional marriages would have gender specific roles assigned to women, that hasn't primarily been my case. I have had a very supportive husband, and in that particular instance, when I am struggling, I know he is there to like support me. And in such a case, the balls do not drop. That's the first thing. But the second thing as well is mainly, like I mentioned, identifying, prioritizing which balls cannot drop, and knowing that you are only limited. If you know you have only 24 hours in a day and you have a particular deadline, you prioritize your deadline as much as you can. You plan towards it with good planning and prioritization, and also recognize that you are not omnipresent, you are not omnipotent. So there are things that would there are
Walk with
things
the
that will fall.
signs.
Exactly. There are certain things that will fall by the wayside. There are sometimes when I am so tired and I can't even lift a finger. the whole house needs probably a refresh, but I'm like, I'm not going to kill
It's not
myself
a
at this.
showroom anyway.
Exactly.
Let it
So
be.
you need to prioritize. Is it making dinner that is important, or
Tidying
actually
up.
making sure you have a tidy sitting room? Then you pick which
Mm,
one is important and then
absolutely.
do that. There are other days when you know that, okay, even the meal, I can't even lift a finger in the kitchen. You can open Uber Eats and order food to eat if that is what is going
Hallelujah
to
to
give you
Uber
peace.
Eats.
Exactly.
Shout out to Uber
So
Eats.
you absolutely need to be able to identify those things that would make your life easier. For instance, when I was doing my PhD, it wasn't like I really had that much money, but in order for me to be able to go to school, still do the two part-time jobs I had, and still be able to parent my daughter, I knew I had to pay through my nose. So I was paying people, I was paying someone to like pick my daughter up from school and
Mm,
stay with her for a few hours to
mm.
give me that particular space to be able to cover what I needed to do
Study.
in school before then
Mm.
come to her. Because if I wanted to do everything by myself, I probably wouldn't have been able to achieve it.
It's
So
impossible. Humanly
yes,
impossible.
exactly. You can't
You
be
do
in
it all.
multiple places at once.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to identify that and plan that as well. At the moment now, the way I am, there are times because a lot of organizations now recognize the fact that to have women in the workforce, they
Position
need,
of power.
yes, they need to, they need to be,
Support.
there needs to be the support there. So there's something called a work-life balance and an open door policy in the sense that you are not scared to tell what your situation is. So there are
Mm.
times, for instance, when I specifically cannot do the regular hours I would normally do at work because I need to do school runs. And in such a case, I tell my line manager, for this particular period, I am working at reduced capacity because
Mm.
I am not going to be working
I love that.
within those particular hours that I would normally be available because I have to do
Available.
school runs, drop children off, and then leave work early enough to be able to get them from school
Mm.
because I don't have the support. So you need to be able to seek help when you need that as well.
Negotiate all of that with your employer. Open
Yes,
door policy.
yes.
Being able to go to them with what's happening in your life and negotiate how you can have the work-life
W-
balance.
balance,
I
yes.
think a lot of women don't know that, or it might not be existing in some professions. If I have a clinic book of patients, or on the wards I have 30 patients to look after as a healthcare professional,
Yeah,
the line manager might not want to hear my domestic palaver.
absolutely. Yes,
But I guess every industry is going to have to get to that point for as long as they're
absolutely.
having women in those
In the
roles.
workforce, yes, definitely.
So
Yes.
I really love what you brought, and I think that's a topic for another day because it does look like you're a specialist in that area, and I would really love you to offload and download so much that you know about that so other women can learn about it. Because you see, in many African homes or culture, women are expected to be the backbone of the home. The cooking, the nurturing, the serving, especially in the diaspora, when you don't have house helps like you do back in Africa, you have cousins, auntie, and uncles who come and help you without you asking. But in the diaspora, you're on your own. If you are lucky or unlucky to have a non-supporting partner, a
Partner,
husband, so to
absolutely.
speak, then you're on your
No,
own. You have to
yeah,
do everything. And today we see that women are also breadwinners. They are students, entrepreneurs, and many women carry the weight silently. They are crumbling and they are not speaking out. They are not asking for help because they think asking for help feels like weakness. I'm a woman, I should be able to do it. And, like you said, Uber Eats comes to the saving grace. Ordering takeaways feels like failure to some women. And delegating house chores feels like taboo. And especially if you don't have family members who are very considerate and kind. And I think
yes,
that comes into it as well. So
absolutely.
I'm grateful to God for what God has put in your life, and well done. A big shout out to your husband for picking up the slack and doing, carrying his own weight. So when you both bring your 100% to the table, your children will be happier, your life will be easier, you can sleep better, and you can go and do your job without worrying what's happening to your home. So, you've already told us a few things. I won't go there again about how you do division of labor and things like that. I think that's a topic for another day. So, and I want to assume that there are certain things as a woman that only you can do. I mean, or that you've chosen within your family unit that, oh, this is mommy's role. It's like an unspoken rule. Like, when you're thinking of strength, what does it mean by choosing what matters most, as you've already alluded to that point? So do you then batch cook some jollof rice, some stew, some egusi, sometimes, and freeze them, or you just leave it and, well, when you want to eat, your husband will cook all of that? How do you ask your husband and your children to share responsibility and things like that?
So I mentioned it earlier, it's planning. If you want to stay sane, especially in diaspora without where you don't necessarily have the help, you don't have the house help, you don't have the nanny, you don't have the driver, you need to be able to plan ahead. Sit down and plan ahead. So, for instance, what I do is I do a lot of bulk shopping. I try as much as possible to bulk shop. If it's buying enough peppers in the house to make my life easier so that, for instance, if I want to cook, I'd like to batch cook, but it's not something my husband really enjoys if I freeze food. So what I try to do is buy in bulk and then freeze in such a way that
Prep.
it makes it easier. Exactly. Prep it in such a way that it makes my cooking easier and faster when I need to do that. So it's a form of planning. I don't have to wait till be like, okay, today we don't have meat in the house. I need to run to the market to go do that. I would burn out if I don't plan ahead. So when I am bulk shopping, I bulk shop months ahead. I have pepper that I bought since January-ish or February that I'm still eating now because I have prepped it and I can just easily go into the freezer, grab a few, and before you know it, food is ready. But if I have to wait, so you need to be able to
Can I
plan
give you
ahead.
a high five to that? High five across the
Yeah.
screen. I love that. Yes, yes.
So you need,
Every
yeah.
woman need to get to that stage.
You absolutely you can't do it. You can't some people like fresh food and I get it
Why
absolutely.
it's
It's
still
good.
fresh? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's still fresh.
no,
It's just
some
prep.
people will, yeah, I left to me, I probably will batch cook a whole pot of stew and put it in the
Yeah,
freezer.
I
But
see what you
because,
mean.
but because it's not what he likes, I try to like
Yes.
prep this pepper so that at least it's faster for me to make small batch of soup at any given time as opposed to like bringing it out of the freezer. I batch cook my jollof rice so that the kids can go there at
Of
any
course,
time to
help
microwave it
themselves.
themselves and help themselves.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to do little things like that. And as much as possible, as soon as your children are old enough to be able to help out, you need to let them know that daddy and mommy need the support and the help as well. So it's little things like packing, helping to pack their younger ones, lunch box
Lunchbox.
while they're going to school. Little tasks like that just to
Tidying up,
upskill
putting the
everybody.
toys away. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah, otherwise the woman is doing everything,
Everything by herself.
running
Yes.
ragged and tearing
No,
your
no,
hair
no.
out.
Yeah.
So, when we're talking of reimagining balance in our lives as women, you know what? I like that we haven't rehearsed this question. You didn't even know the questions I'm going to ask you. It shows and proves that we are real women going through real life. So,
Yes.
on top of all of our responsibilities, our dreams and aspirations, our families, and, cultural expectations, society expectations, how do we reimagine balance? How do you normalize therapy? Do you choose joy without guilt? So What do you do for you as a woman?
As a woman, you need to learn to be kind to yourself. You need to learn to love yourself. And you need to learn to also, while prioritizing others, make sure you also remember to prioritize yourself. Because if you burn out while trying to make every other person happy, it's not going to go well for you. And while you are suffering, every other person moves on with their lives. So you
But
also
it
need to,
won't go well for them as well, because
yeah,
you normally pick up the slack.
I
If you
know,
break
but
down, they break down too. The
no,
family
but
dynamics break down, doesn't it?
the family dynamics breaks down, but that's what most women focus on. They focus on the fact that everybody is going to break down without them and not give themselves the grace. And because of that, they start feeling guilty when they take a little bit of time to themselves. So women need to learn to be kind to themselves. They need to learn to put themselves first. I'll give an instance now. Um, there are times when I just want a day to myself. So I probably book the time off work and I just stay in bed all day, do absolutely nothing. It is my mental health day, my physical recuperation day. I do absolutely nothing just for
Amen to
myself
that,
to
sister.
be able to have that strength to do that kind of thing. For my birthday, for instance, I decided I didn't want a party. I just wanted to go away by myself just to have that time to myself. And thank
Me
God for
time.
supportive spouses. So it was easy for me to go away and I stepped away without feeling the mom guilt. Because some women I have spoken to a particular woman that told me when she's pregnant and she's even going into the hospital to give birth to her kids, she takes the other ones along because she can't just do without the Adam.
To the
And I think
maternity.
yeah, exactly.
That's
She does that.
nice.
She takes
That
them
should
to
be
the
fulfilling.
hospital. That's the thing.
My
And I
goodness,
don't
that's
understand
crazy.
why you would guilt yourself
That.
to that extent that you can't even give yourself a break. As much as I love my
Wow.
children, I also love myself. I need to be
Yeah.
in a good mental health space to be able to be the best version of myself for them. So it's
Yeah.
important.
So should we start a no guilt mommies club then?
We
Let's see
should.
how many people will
No, we should.
join in.
No, I can, honestly, I think
You
a
be
lot
the
of women need
chairman
to,
of that.
I feel
I'll
like
be the vice president.
I feel like a lot of women need to hear this because the mom guilt is real. A lot of people feel like, oh, I can't afford to take any time to myself. A lot of things will fall by the wayside. But if you are not in the right mental health space, you can't even be the best version of yourself to serve the people that you are
Anybody.
feeling guilty. Exactly.
Anybody. I mean, in our language, Yoruba will say, I'm going to say it in Yoruba and you interpret it. Yoruba will say, Kò sí ìlú mi ìjọ òkun, irọ́ ló ń jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀. Go on, tell people what that means.
I feel like, yeah, they would definitely, there's nobody that is irreplaceable. I feel
Indispensable, yes.
indispensable. Yeah.
If you're not in a church, the church will still be church. It will be full, whether it's two people, and they will carry on the service of the church. That's
Yes.
just literal translation.
Yeah.
Nobody is indispensable. You're not there, like you were saying before. Their life continues.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you would soon find out that somebody will step in into your role and do that role that you hold so dear. I'm
There
not
to
saying
yourself.
neglect your family, but
Hmm.
take a breather, take time to breathe so you can actually live
That's why I
for
said
this
women need to be kind to themselves. They need
themselves.
to learn to
Yes.
kind to themselves. Yeah.
So, are we advising women to take time off, time for themselves, to rest, to take some solo walks, as they say? I mean,
Yes.
I love to go in the woods, go for a 3-4 mile walk. If I can every day, if not, I'll do other physical activity. But that's just for your mental clarity as well.
Yes.
Take a book, read a book, and learn to say no. And we were joking about mom guilt before, and I think this other aspect of guilt is something that we will come back to, like a panel of women talking about it. What about husband guilt? Not just mom guilt, is the husband guilt. It's as if the husband was not existing without the woman before the woman, came in the picture. So, and I think that's another topic on its own. So
Yeah.
again, is if you are not blaming yourself or guilting yourself, other people might blame you or guilt you. And I think that's something that we need to correct in our culture.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
um, well, we are moving to the end, and I'm really so loving this, and it seems like I'm having so much fun. I hope you are too.
Same here. Yes, I
you
am.
know. So the strategy we want to advise women is the need to operate in their season as
Yes.
women. A wise woman once preached a sermon on a Mother's Day, and she said, and I quote, it said, if it is nurturing, nurture, operate in your season. Personally, I would love to be a mother with no regrets, and I've tried to be freelance for 26 years since my last baby was born. So I could pick the hours of work that I do. I could pick my kids up, drop them off, or one of us will be able to be there, because emotionally it can be damaging for your kids.
Yes.
They're the only kids at the school gate with no parents picking up or dropping off. Again, like when you were doing your PhD, it was for a specific time, and you were
Yes.
focused and driven. You got that out the way. But there are certain things as women that we need to zoom in and, as you said, prioritize what's important
Yes. Yeah.
to us. So, for you, being a woman and operating in your season, what season are you right now?
Um, for me, I feel like all the sacrifices I have put in the past has led up to this point, and I feel like this now is my season of rest and consolidation,
Amen.
and essentially, like you said, nurturing. I'm not saying I haven't been there for my kids, but now I can I have the flexibility to tell them at work I am prioritizing my children. So if I have to, I am not going to say, oh, because it is my career, I'm not in that space where I feel constrained to let some, because for me now they are priority, because they are at that age where they would remember if mommy wasn't there for their school play. They would
Mm,
remember if they were the only children that were last to be picked up. So at the
absolutely.
moment, I am prioritizing them because they would remember. Like you said, while I might not have the flexibility to go freelance now, I have the flexibility to be able to say I need I need these hours to be able to
Work-life
prioritize my
balance.
exactly. I need to
You
do that.
got
So
that.
in my season of rest, in my season of consolidation, prioritization, because now I can plan myself better. I would still deliver on the job you want me to do, but I also need to be able to have my own hours, have control of what I
Yeah,
do.
absolutely. Because you have the ability already, you've built capacity, and you have
Yes.
the knowledge and the credibility within your professional role. And,
Yes.
I like where this conversation is going, because you're moving to the next season of your life. You are in the fourth decade. And I'm thinking with my wellness hat on menopause, perimenopause, So that's another seat that you're going to sit at, another day, So, but I like the fact that you're already in that frame of mind of season of rest. Because a lot of women approaching 40, already in their 40, they don't even know that they should rest. And I love what some organizations are doing, as I've done some menopause practitioner roles here and there over the years. And I've seen some organizations who have provided a different uniform that is schooling for women of certain age when you are 40
Oh,
inches.
okay. Oh, that's
Yes,
good.
yes, HSBC has done that. And
Mm.
also they have fan at the woman's table.
Oh,
And
that's
then,
very considerate.
yes, yes, and some policies also when women can just speak to their line supervisor or whoever and say, I'm not coming in today. And nobody will ask you why. Actually, any woman of any age, because it could be period pain, it could be PMT, it could be any female hormone related issue that you are not obliged to discuss
to
with
disclose.
anybody.
That's
You
good.
see? So we are moving forward with what is available for women. And I hope that women will come to this realization and awareness
And take advantage. Yeah.
That's it. And cut themselves a slack. You know, I've been leading super busy life, but I've been in my season of rest, as you call it, and I took a sabbatical for myself. Though I wasn't
Yeah.
resting where I went, but it's a different type of rest. You see, so it's a mental clarity. I can be creative again. And the back of my sabbatical, this podcast is born. You see, so many things that God has put in our hands, in our hearts. If we don't take time out, we're never going to be able to reach our potentials as women.
Yes.
And especially for us African descents who have so much societal or cultural expectation. Gone are the days when the girl child isn't in the picture of doing anything with her life. Women are kicking asses and shattering glasses and badass bosses in the boardroom and leading men. So we have no excuse than to perform, but to balance it up in our lives as women. So something else I was going to say, we can leave it for another session about support systems you have in place for other women in your locality, because we've touched on that in the past in our casual chats. When you see women coming from African countries into this nation with COS or studentship or whatever, and your heart bleeds. My heart bleeds for them as I see how they're suffering, because the expectation, what they think they will find here is different.
It's not what, yeah.
And what's your experience like about that woman? And what single most important advice will you give?
That's I would say for them, because it's not a particular situation that I have found myself, but what I have realized is a lot of them actually jump into the river with both feet without actually knowing what they would find on the other side. Exactly what they will find on the other side. Exactly what they will find on the other side. So for me,
Literally, they jump from the one ocean to another.
Exactly.
You're very right. It's even beyond river.
Yeah. So they need to be absolutely sure of whatever decisions they are taking and what impacts, and they also need to be able to identify exactly where their breaking points are. Because if you cannot cope or you cannot manage, you need to be able to either ask for help or go back to where you're coming from, know exactly what your breaking points are. It's a tough situation and a difficult situation, and I hope people don't find themselves there, but also do not shy away for asking for help, because you never can tell the person that will help you might just be a phone call away or just speaking to someone else.
Absolutely. There are a lot of support in the community that these women can latch on to. I mean, you and I have been in this country for a number of years. We have experience. We can guide them. And if they don't ask, they're not going to know.
They are not going to get
here. Yeah, there is no statutory organization that is helping these women settle in this country.
Absolutely.
Which is a sad thing and a big deal. And you can say that's one of the reasons why this podcast, this conversation is, born. So thank you for that, because when we think about our sisters who have japa, as they call it now, I've seen people japaing back to Africa, because as fast as they japa to diaspora, they japa back. because it's not easy. They think it's easy because they've seen it from afar. They don't know what's underneath the ocean.
Which
And
is why I said, yeah, which is why I said they need to be open to, like, if you know you can't cope, there's no shame in going back to where you're familiar with.
go back, yes,
If
yes,
you feel like you can't cope, because a lot of these people, when they get to the point where they can't cope, they probably start taking out their frustrations on probably their kids, and it opens up a whole new kind of worms that things spiral out of control. So you need to prioritize, is it my mental health, or do I want to stay in the diaspora by force? You need to pick which battles to fight.
yeah. Yeah, and that brings us to a lady sent me a WhatsApp message as we round up. I'll quickly mention this. She sent a list of Nigerian names of people in London who have passed away. And somebody sent it to her to send it to me as I won't call myself a leader in the community, but we've been in this community for some decades in the multicultural arena. And she said, oh, forwarded, sent to Grace just in case they know people. People who have died in this country and their money are sitting in the UK bank. And
Hmm.
they are hoping that some of their family will come and claim it. And obviously, if they don't, it goes back to the states.
Wow.
So when people are just buying and pulling 3, 4 jobs here and
Shift.
there,
Yeah.
yeah, as if there is no tomorrow. Tomorrow will be here and they will not be. So these are frank, raw conversations we are trying to have. It's not to shock anybody, but to
Yeah.
shock you if it needs to into reality of what life is. When you move into a foreign country, it's not a holiday out of your life. It's part of your
It's part of
journey.
your life. It's part of your life.
Absolutely. So don't leave it as if all these gold-plated pots and pans, I won't use it now. I'll go and use it when I retire home.
Get back to Nigeria.
I mean, who knows what tomorrow will bring? That tomorrow is not promised to anybody, you know. So, and that brings us to the end of our conversation today. To all our sisters out there listening, or to their husbands, their family, everyone, we want to say to you, sis, your peace matters.
It
Protect your
does.
peace and your
Absolutely.
sanity. Choose your peace over everything. She must work like she doesn't have a home and care for home like she doesn't have
She
a
doesn't have
job.
a job.
How can we flip this over? Your joy matters. And your tradition and society expectation doesn't have to mean self-sacrifice. Let's start a new conversation, one where our young African women will thrive and not just survive. So I would like you to leave one lasting words for our listeners. So that will be my opening quote in the next round table. So take it away, Dr. VK.
Um, for me, I would say you matter. You, whatever you do, you matter, you make a difference, and so be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself and pick your battles wisely. Prioritize what is important at any given time, and every other thing will fall in place.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to our guest today, Dr. Fikayo Onobi, for your truth, for your strength, for your willingness to share your story. And you've reminded us that all our voices are powerful and our journeys matter. And to all of you today, if this conversation resonated with you, share it with another sister in the diaspora. And let's keep this conversation going because we rise higher together. We are smart individually, black, young African women, but we are brilliant together. So, until next time, remember you're seen, you're valued, and your story is still being written. It is your host, Grace Ronke Adegwike, with the brilliant Dr. Fike. Thank you. This is Bawo, a place for us, for our voices, a home for our stories. And thank you for joining us. Till next time. Goodbye to you.
Bye. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Bye bye.
Bye.
I hope you had a nice afternoon or evening.
Yes, it's been a good conversation.
That's
Absolutely. Yeah.
awesome. Glad you
Yeah.
enjoyed it. So yeah, you're going to go and get some batch cook jollof rice out the freezer now and have some dinner. And get
Absolutely.
time to get to tidy up or how it will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm sure those girls they will bring you a cup of coffee and something. Say, oh, mommy, yeah, it's
They're on
ready. Go and
holiday.
rest.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're on
oh,
holiday.
okay. That's even good. That's another topic. How to
Yeah.
engage your kids during holiday season. That's something else to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time
Okay.
tonight.
Yes, so
I
have a
appreciate
good
it.
evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.